The wonderful world of flowers brightens up the garden and puts a smile on our faces. The flowers soften up the landscape of a rock terrace here, and so we grow a lot of flowers right here out our back door. The flowers come in annuals that we reseed every year, but there's also perennials that once you get established, they come back on their own every year. You can hardly beat zinnias for an easy to grow annual that quickly covers itself with color. Well, not even its own color, but the color of the butterflies and insects that pollinate them. This was sown in late April in shallow furrow. The variety is Dahlia, zinnia. And I was going to point out that the actual flower of a zinnia are these things right here. These yellow blooms in the center are where the organs of reproduction are. The petals here are actually calyxes. They're here to help attract the pollinators to the plant. The yellow tiger swallowtail butterfly is particularly attracted to zinnias. A flower is a fettered butterfly, as a butterfly is a freed flower. We can make the comparison of an egg and a seed, the worm to a new shoot, the cocoon that the worm makes to the flower bud, and then the butterfly to the fully open flowers. The dark green foliage of marigold is enough reason to grow this beautiful plant. These are seeds that we saved from last year's blooms. They will cover themselves with orange flowers by fall. Right now they're just barely starting to bloom. They're sown much the way the zinnias are, in a shallow furrow in early spring. Although the marigolds just get prettier and prettier throughout the year, zinnias peter out in the hot weather. So for fall zinnia blooms, we'll plant a new row sometime at the beginning of July. It's good to know the size of your flowers at maturity so you can know where to plant them. We oftentimes plant a low-growing plant in the front of a wall or something, like sweet alyssum. Another low-growing plant that we love is calendula. They make a salve for your skin. It's a little bit sticky, and they make a salve that you can rub on your skin. This variety is called Regina. And they're very easy to grow from seed. The bright yellow calendula is called Alpha. A third low-growing plant is nasturtium. We plant them early and they look pretty good in the spring, but as you can see in the summer they kind of suffer from the heat. But these plants will come back in the fall and make really pretty plants and flowers that will actually climb down the rock wall. This is actually a tobacco. It's in a variety called rustica. It's the Indian tobacco. We don't smoke it, but we just enjoy the pretty flowers. An old-fashioned flower that we love is cleome, or spider flower, spider plant. It looks real spidery. We didn't even plant these. Well, we planted them once a long time ago, but they reseed themselves and they just pop up in the garden as volunteers. So when we're doing our spring weeding, we just look for the little plants and then we leave them. And they add a nice splash of pink and purple to the garden. We love the bright blue flowers of borage. This is another one of the plants that reseeds itself. We never know where it's going to come up, but we'll let a few come up and we might transplant them somewhere else if we want to too. We've harvested a lot of this oregano already, and the part's ready to harvest again, but we left some to go to bloom because the blooms are so pretty. This is oregano. Another pretty plant is pineapple sage. It's one of the plants that can be propagated by a cutting. Here's a piece of the plant that we put in water, and now it's formed roots, which we can plant for a new plant. The red flowers of pineapple sage bloom in the fall and attract hummingbirds. Although there are millions of varieties of the easy-to-grow sunflowers, the one we like, Mexican sunflower, isn't even a sunflower. The soft, velvety leaves and stems of Tithonia burst into a plethora of bright orange blooms. The 6-foot or taller plants make a beautiful backdrop in a flower bed. Well, this bumblebee here is showing us that this is bee balm, whose bright red flowers add an early color to the garden. The bee balm is a cousin to the wild monarda that grows in the fields that has a more purple flower. Hyssop is a flowering herb that we like a lot. Like many of these flowers, they attract the pollinators. Hyssop is handy if you have a deer problem because deer don't like it. We can look closely at it and see the square stem and opposite leaf pattern that tells us it's in the mint family. Chives are really nice to have in a kitchen garden because we use them quite a bit. As you can tell, the plant's been picked, but they make a nice, pretty purple flower. Another perennial plant that we like is salvia. This blue-flowered variety really attracts the hummingbirds. We like to have it in view from our porch where we sit so we can watch the hummingbirds come. The tuberoses are about to bloom. This plant from Cuba is in the lily family, and it's used in funerals. We cut the stems off and put it in water, and the fragrance comes out at dusk. The lily family offers blooms all season long. The early flowering crocuses and narcissus and daffodils are long gone, but now that it's summer, we have the daylilies. This daylily is a double. It has 2 flowers put together rather than just one set of petals on it. The bulbs, after they bloom, die back a bit, and that's when we dig them up and transplant them to a new bed. We don't want to keep bulbs in the same bed and getting too thick. It will reduce the blooms next year. An old-fashioned perennial favorite is the perennial 4 o'clock. They're really cool because they bloom at certain times of the day, well, 4 o'clock. But they also bloom early in the morning, and they close up during the heat of the day. In old-fashioned medieval gardens, monks would have time gardens where they would have morning glories blooming in the morning, various plants that opened at certain times of day, including the 4 o'clocks, and maybe wind up with moonflowers that bloom at night. Well, don't forget Tennessee's native wildflowers. This is dayflower, a member of the spiderwort family. We didn't even plant it. It probably came up with some seeds from the graveling the roads or something, from down the creek gravel. But it just makes a lovely plant with very interesting foliage. It kind of climbs a little bit and has these beautiful blue flowers. We have just touched the tip of the iceberg of the wonderful, colorful flower world. There are so many flowers to grow. It's a wonder I ever get out into the vegetable garden. If you love gardening, you may want to subscribe to this channel. We showcase gardens, plants, and the joy that gardening can bring.